today I'm going to be making a tiered skirt. Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to my sewing space, and in today's video, I'm going to be using some leftover fabric from other projects to make a long tiered skirt. The first fabric that I'm going to use is this one here, leftover from the bed sheet that I used to make the long tiered scrunchy strapped dress. Sorry, this is the top of the sheet, but I think if I turn it upside down this way, I could use this end as the bottom of the skirt, which will give it a really pretty detail with the lace here. And then I won't have to hem this bottom of the skirt because it's already a finished edge. The next fabric I'm going to use is this one that I used to make the Peppermint Valley jumpsuit. Just a really pretty fabric. I think that these two fabrics coordinate nicely together. I went through my stash and I found this red and cream plaid that also has, I don't know if the camera is picking it up, but it has some gold threads running through it, which I don't usually like metallic in clothing, but I think that this is very subtle and is kind of a fun detail in this otherwise pretty straightforward basic plaid. So these are the three fabrics that I'm working with. Let's get into it. First measurement that I am taking is my hip measurement. I'm measuring from my waist to where I want the skirt to end, which is down by my ankle, and then I'm taking my waist measurement. Here are the pattern pieces that I'm going to be using. I have my waistband piece and then my 3 tiers. Each is the same length but just a little bit longer, and then I have 4 pocket pieces. Here is what these pieces look like using my measurements. So with that ruffle in mind and knowing that I want each tier to be the same length, I did some math, and here is what the lengths of my tiers look like adjusted for this 6-inch ruffle. And here's all my pieces cut out and ready to go. The first thing that I'm doing is serging all of my raw edges. Next, I'm going to pin the pockets to the first tier, right sides together, about 4 inches from the top of the tier. Sew these in place. And press them flat. Then I'm going to stitch the pocket bag to the seam allowance. And here's what that looks like. Doing this helps keep the pocket turned to the inside of the skirt. And then with right sides together, I'm pinning the first tier of the skirt together, and I'm going to sew along the side seam and the pockets. All right, next with right sides together, we're pinning the second tier together and the bottom tier together and sewing at the side seams. And then I realized with my sheet here that the lace and trim was way too bulky to get a nice flat finish. So I'm unpicking that seam. unpicking the edges of the fabric so I can trim the lace down. And then resewing. And then I'm pressing my seams open. You'll notice that I did not cut my bottom tier into 2 pieces, and that's because my leftover sheet was the perfect size and I was able to use the whole thing without cutting out 2 pieces. On the waistband, press up one long edge about 1/4 inch. Okay, next, right sides together, pin the side seams of the waistband and then sew in place. I'm setting my sewing machine to its longest stitch setting and then sewing my lines of gathering stitches. On my first tier, the fabric was light enough that I only had to sew 1 line of gathering stitches, but my second and third tier, I sewed 2 lines of gathering stitches. Next, we're gonna work on getting everything gathered up. My top tier is already gathered up nicely just from sending it through the machine, and it actually is just about right for the waistband. So we're moving on to gathering the second tier to the same size as the first tier. And then with right sides together, pinning them in place, matching side seams. And then sewing that around, being careful to sew the gathers nicely and evenly and not catching any fabric underneath. Turn that right side out and give a good press. And then next we are gathering the bottom tier so it is the same size as the second tier. And then again with right sides together, pinning them in place, matching the side seams. And then sewing all the way around. Turning it right side out and giving it a good press again. With right sides together, take the raw edge of the waistband and pin it around the top of the skirt. And then sew that all the way around. Press the waistband up. We're pinning the ironed edge of the fabric to the inside of the waistband, overlapping the previous row of stitches by 1 millimeter or 2 to make sure that those stitches are fully covered. Stitching in the ditch, making sure that I'm sewing through the fabric on the other side, and leaving an opening to be able to thread my elastic through. Give everything a good press again. And then I'm wrapping my 1.5 inch wide elastic around my waist and then cutting a piece to size and then threading the elastic through the elastic casing I just made using a large safety pin. Then using a zigzag stitch, I sew the elastic together and then I work the elastic into the elastic casing. And then sew the waistband shut. Last thing to do is to trim up any stray threads and pick out any gathering stitches. And here you have it, my finished skirt. What do you guys think? All right, and that's it. My finished skirt is complete. I'm really happy with how this turned out. It turned out exactly how I wanted. The only thing that I'm thinking is maybe I should have switched the first tier and the second tier, so the color gradient was darkest to lightest, but beggars can't be choosers. What's that expression? Hindsight is 20/20. Maybe some poor planning on my part. Regardless, I'm really happy how everything just turned out. Do I love it? Yes, I do. Am I gonna wear it all the time? I think so. I'm actually planning on wearing it tonight. It's my town's Halloween parade, and last year I dressed up as a mushroom. The hat I made was too cool not to wear it again, so I think this year I'm gonna pair it with this skirt and wear it to the Halloween parade tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!